Hello and welcome. My name is Ben and this is Dan Atkins of AtkinsClarke. Just very quickly, obviously need to speak about our uniforms. We black t-shirts.
Yeah. Should have messaged before we turned up.
We've got the same trousers on, but thankfully there's a desk in the way. This video is all about candidates. So this is for someone who is job seeking. If you're a job seeker out there, then this is exactly for you. Dan has got 15 years worth of recruiter experience, and having seen him firsthand at the way he communicates with candidates, I just want to encourage you and say you are superb at this. And I've heard you on many phone calls and I'm like, man, I wish I was in finance and looking for a job because I need someone to big me up like this.
I've paid you far too much. No,
that is all genuine from the heart.
I appreciate that. That's very kind.
Yeah. Why don't we get started? The way this is going to work, we're going to go through a whole bunch of questions, and Dan's going to reel off his wisdom and knowledge. The first one is how to make your CV stand out.
Really, it's the most simple thing. I think people overcomplicate it. When you think about a CV, you could quite easily spend weeks on it. Get specialists to look at the format, look at some of the content that you've got in there. I think it's really, really simple. There's probably three key elements. I think again, these if I was working with a coaching candidate, there's two in here that I would definitely use. One is write the CV for the job that you want, not the jobs that you've had. Right? Because I think a lot of people write their CV like, here's my list of duties and my responsibilities, and don't think about the job they're actually applying for. So let's say 20 years ago you did some accounts payable work or some accounts receivable work, or I was processing invoices. Well, if you're applying for a CFO role, it's just not relevant, right? So I think that's the first one. Write the CV for the job that you want, not the jobs that you've been in. And the second point, which again I'll always share, is make sure you've got some achievements on there. You need to stand out as a candidate. It's the document that lands in front of a client, particularly if you're applying directly, and it's your first chance to impress. Right? Some people write a cover letter. Not a fan. We can go into that in another time. But your achievements need to be front and center. What I've delivered and the result. Okay, what I've done and what the result was. Because if you've only got a list of duties and responsibilities, businesses can get very quickly turned off by the fact that you're not thinking about the value of what you do. You're just thinking about what to do. So those are the two things. And then just format, right? Making sure there's no gaps, there's no errors. I said before in a previous episode, the other episode, that actually if you have mistakes on your CV, it's just like a cardinal sin. It's absolutely the case. You know, if you're a candidate and you're in finance, you cannot have mistakes on your CV. So proofread it, get someone else to proofread it, because, you know, if you're anything like me, you can skip over stuff and be like, no, it looks absolutely fine. Well, someone else might spot it for you.
And you offer a CV reviewing service?
Oh, yeah. We can put that in the link below.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
What are the top 3 skills that every finance professional needs?
Top 3 skills. Attention to detail. It's going to come up a bit, isn't it? Yeah. I think it does really depend on what avenue you go down, because there are very different roles within finance. Attention to detail, absolutely. Right. Even as a commercial finance business partner or a finance analyst in some capacity that doesn't necessarily need to be in the nuts and bolts, you still need to have attention to detail to be able to support stakeholders in the way that's most accurate. So attention to detail, definitely. I think what's helpful is communication skills, the ability to articulate what you're doing and to communicate that effectively with your team, your managers, or, you know, stakeholders, as I mentioned. And I mean, I'd say analytical ability, but again, that really does depends on the role that you're in. You don't need to be analytically capable as a bookkeeper. You just need to be able to pull a set of books together. So I think I don't think there's 3 specific oones for all job types. I think it does depend on the job you're in. Yeah,
nice. What recruiters look for in a finance candidate?
Yeah, and I think, so broader than just the CV itself, a well-written CV that's been tailored for the application is obvious, I think. I was going to go into a bit more detail about the CV, but we've covered that off a little bit earlier. So I think really good, well-written CV. I think understanding of why they've applied for the role as well, and be clear on what's interested them and what they really want as well. Two other areas that are very much interlinked is be clear on your reason for looking and what you're looking for, because I spend a lot of time, again, coaching people through the process of what are you really looking for? what is important to you, being clear on that, because if you aren't clear on that, you might apply for roles that you think you're interested in, but actually when you break it down and you meet with them, there's something inside that I'm just like, I don't know, there's something in my gut, I don't know if I feel right for it. But that can probably be talked through, right, if you go through that process, particularly with a recruiter. And then reason for looking. If you're in employment at the moment and thinking about a job search, be clear on why you're looking for why you're looking for work, why you're push and pull factor is the phrase I use. So what's the push away from the company that you're currently working in? Is it the boss is a so and so? Is it that you're not getting the promotion that you deserve? Is it that someone's been given a pay rise and you found out all the salaries and something? It could be anything. That's one thing, the push factor away from a business. And then the pull factor 2 is the looking for section, to be really clear on what you're looking for, so that you know when you apply for a role, you've got clarity on that.
How would a candidate ace their finance job interview?
Easy. So easy, this one. And again, I don't know why people don't think about it. I mean, maybe it's because I've been working in recruitment for such a long time that these things are so obvious. But research the company. Like, make sure you know about the company. Don't just bowl up to an interview and expect to be able to blag it. Be clear on the business, who they are, ownership structure, leadership structure, what you really want to know about the company as well, which will lead me on to another point in a second. But be clear on who the company is, what they're doing, what their values are. Be ready to challenge the company as well in the interview if you need to, around some of the things you've seen online. And that could be things like Glassdoor as well. So checking out what's actually written on Glassdoor. I had one recently where the Glassdoor reviews were horrendous. The candidate was equipped, went in, said, look, I'm really interested in the role. Sounds like a great opportunity. Your Glassdoor reviews are horrid. Like, talk to me. And the business didn't shy away from it. They didn't say, oh, there's a load of rubbish. It's all the rubbish people that have left the business that have filled those in. They said, look, we've got work to do around our culture. We're developing that. You'll be a key part of it. We want you to be part of that. Brilliant answer. And again, the fact that she was inquisitive, she actually ended up taking the job, would you believe? The other thing that I would just say as well is you've got to prepare questions. Okay. Again, cardinal sin. Like, if you don't prepare questions, why not? You're not being inquisitive. You're not showing your interest. I encourage candidates to try and ace an interview, right? To try and win the interview, even if after 10 minutes they're like, I'm not sure, because you've got then time to reflect after an interview to decide if you actually do want to progress with it or not. If you just don't ask any questions or don't show any interest, you don't actually get the opportunity to potentially come back in the future, likely. So I think questions are really, really, really important. So not just, giving questions as well. So what are the plans for the business over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, and how can I add to those? Right? What are the biggest challenges that the company is facing at the moment, and how is the finance team a critical part of trying to improve those? Great questions, because it's like, what can I do to be part of the solution? Okay. And then the other one is examples. So commonly used acronym in recruitment is STAR, STAR, situation, task, action, result. If you are trying to demonstrate the examples that businesses will like, using that framework is really helpful. So a situational task I found myself in was X. What I specifically did, which is the action, was Y, and the result was this. So you're showcasing not just that you've got the skills that they're looking for, but how you've demonstrated them with value at the end as well. So I think being prepared with good research on the company, great questions to ask them, and then good examples as well, I think really key. Yeah.
How would somebody transform from mid-level to senior?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
You've done this before. Mid-level to senior. I think you've got to learn from those people that you're around, and you've got to look at what they do, and be inquisitive again about how they got there. What did they do? What skills did they pick up? And try and replicate that as best you possibly can. I think that most candidates that I speak to are quite fearful about only having one type of experience. So let's say if they're going down the financial reporting route, that they'll never get to FD or CFO if they haven't had some commercial finance experience. It helps, but it's non-essential, and you can see lots of examples of that. But I think probably probably the best answer to that question is trying to have a nice broad CV, nice broad experience. So if you are a head of financial reporting and you've only ever done either audit or reporting, can you try and get some commercial finance or operational experience where you're working with the business, showcasing your ability to build relationships, to influence decisions, etc., rather than just the kind of the management of the numbers and the year end, etc. And likewise the other way around. It might only be a short stint, but if you're in commercial finance, only ever been in commercial finance, a great way to get into leadership roles is to have a slightly broader CV than most, and by doing something in reporting or in audit or in tax or treasury or something, might just showcase your ability to adapt and your willingness to adapt as well, and businesses like that. So
yeah, nice. How would you encourage someone to handle job rejections and to stay motivated?
It's one of the hardest ones because there's some brilliant people that are out there that have been turned down for jobs. I had one the other day, and he's talking about like 10 or 20 applications. He's a brilliant candidate, really strong experience, and just constantly getting rejected. I think it's just recognising your own self-worth, and knowing that the right role will come at some point. You've got to be proactive with it though, because I see again that conversation I had with that individual. Oh, I've had 20 rejections. Well, what are you doing about it now? I'm just feeling sorry for myself. Well, have you contacted more recruiters? Have you looked on alternate job boards? Have you been in touch with businesses that you want to work for directly? Are you still pushing the agenda, or have you just gone, oh God, forget it, I can't get a job, it must be me, I'm not going to get a job ever? Well, that's obviously not the case. You're already at this level, so it's hard because it's a lot to do with staying motivated and staying positive, actually, and you need to surround yourself by good people. Recruiters play a really important part in that as well, in terms of being a source of encouragement about how the market looks, your capability, strengths, skills, experiences, examples that you've showcased, being coached as well, being coachable, so actively seeking mentors online, looking for people to come to you and say, I think you could try this, or maybe have you considered this? Not just recruiters, but actually other CFOs, other leaders in finance, to see if you can gain something from them.
So on that basis, you mentioned earlier about cover letters.
Yes.
How to write a perfect cover letter that gets you noticed. Should you write a cover letter?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. Should
I elaborate?
Yes, please.
It's helpful if I do, isn't it? Yeah. If we just did yes, no answers, it's going to be a very short episode, couldn't it? Yeah. I don't think so. Potentially, if you're applying directly, you got to look at it. If on LinkedIn it tells you exactly how many applications have gone through until it gets above 200, or maybe even 100. Above 100, do you think they're reading all those cover letters? I mean, they must have a lot of time on their hand if they're reading every single cover letter that comes through. Personally, my own experience, I don't read them.
Okay.
So I look at the skills, I look at the relevance of the background. It shows an extra layer of interest potentially. It shows that maybe they've done a bit more research. And again, I often see, I've researched this, I like this about your company. It helps, of course it does, but businesses and business leaders do not have time to read dozens and dozens and dozens of cover letters. So I'm not even going to entertain the potential of what a good cover letter looks like, because I just don't read them. And I don't send cover letters to my clients when I'm introducing candidates. Well, maybe I'd give them a bit of a bio about why I like them, fine. But that's more to do with their personality, character, fit, things that the client is looking for that I think are relevant you can't see on the CV. Whereas, if you're sending a cover letter, you're trying to match the cover letter to a job description or an advert. Well, the CV's doing that anyway. So what's the point of writing a cover letter as well? So I don't know. Maybe it's just me being a bit, I don't want to say new school, but like they just feel a bit old school. I don't know if businesses actually look at them.
Okay. You mentioned LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And using that to apply.
Yeah.
How would you use LinkedIn to land your next finance role?
Again, as part of my coaching, one of the things that I do is I talk through specific details. I'm not going to go through that today in particular, but specific details on your LinkedIn profile that you want to update. Make sure they're absolutely maximized and they are front and center in terms of your profile. As an example, your headline, right? Does your headline say, I'm a finance director? Or does it talk about the value that you add as a finance director and what you've done? The big one is, are you open to work, right? If you're trying to find a new opportunity, change your status to open to work. Just to highlight, there are two versions of that. One is open to work, but no one knows other than recruiters that pay for the expensive license. which I paid for. Or 2, open to work so everyone sees, and you have the green banner on. And the reason I'm mentioning that, I actually had 2 people on the same day say to me, yeah, I'm open to work. I've changed my status on my LinkedIn. I said, yeah, I can see it. It's publicly available. Did you know that? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, it's literally a green banner on your profile showing everybody, including your line manager, including the HR team, anybody that you work with, that you're open to work. They said, yeah, that's a mistake. I better change that. So be clear on what you're sharing and all that. But getting your open to work open and on is really important, because any recruiter that's paid for that advanced license on LinkedIn gets access to it. The challenge, actually, I think, is that people think when they do that, that's it. They don't really need to do much more. Absolutely not the case, because there's most internal talent acquisition teams, a large proportion of talent acquisition teams don't have that advanced license. It costs a lot of money, and businesses are more inclined to give them what's called Recruiter Lite, which doesn't give them visibility of those people that are open to work but behind the scenes. Okay, so if you really want to get visible, you really want to get noticed, you want to start commenting, joining groups, you want to start connecting with recruiters, just being more active, definitely. Posting content, things that are relevant. Setting up alerts for jobs is the other obvious one as well. You've got to make sure you've got job alerts set up in different locations, different job titles, because you just don't want to miss out on something. LinkedIn's so powerful, but used in the wrong way or not used at all is clearly a big error that some people make. Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's feeling stuck in their finance career?
It's incredibly normal. I hear about that all the time, actually. Particularly at senior level, if you get to a finance director or CFO level, it's very, very common. Often what tends to happen is you start your career, you're young and hungry, you're trying to build your knowledge, you're moving every 18 months, 12 to 18 months, 2 years. You're learning lots, you're going through your exams, you get to mid-management, and then you broaden your skills, etc. It's continuing to happen, but slightly slower because there's fewer of those senior roles. When you reach FD level, it's like, what's next? And what else do I need to learn? And people often get frustrated that I've been in this FD role for 4 years. It's the longest I've ever been in a role. You're like, yeah, but you know, there's fewer FD roles that are actually available versus the mid-management and the lower level roles across the country or just in general in business. And as such, you will need to do that role for longer. It's very, very competitive to try and find a new role as well at that level, because there are people that are usually more senior applying for them and people that are more junior applying for them. And the company has a set of specific criteria that they're looking for. So you might be an FD already, thinking about developing your career. You might apply for the role that you look at and think is perfect for you. The company might not quite think you're perfect for them. So I think always try and broaden skills. If you feel like you're stagnant in terms of the actual day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, you're not sure what the promotion's looking like or progression's looking like in your job, try and build more skills, do some courses on the side. LinkedIn has loads of them you can do, and it can showcase you as well. So because that's a public profile, it's like a CV, right? But you can say, I've completed this on US GAAP, or I've completed this on commercial finance, and actually it shows as an achievement on your actual LinkedIn profile. So try to advance yourself even if you can't advance yourself.
You've mentioned LinkedIn quite a bit there. What are 5 mistakes to avoid on a LinkedIn profile?
1, having your profile incomplete. That big no-no. 2, keywords. As simple as it sounds, recruiters are pretty basic, right? If you've got an advanced LinkedIn license, it encourages you to use keywords to search to find people. If you don't have finance leader, finance director, financial controller, business transformation, change on your profile, it won't pull through. So the recruiters are less likely to find you. So really, really important. Being engaged. 3, if you're not being engaged, if you're not commenting on things, if you're not sharing things, liking things, for recruiters, but also for businesses, you're just an invisible profile. People won't necessarily know that you're looking. I'd probably say photo as well, because I just think that if you are looking, you want to have a professional photo. You want to be able to be presentable. Again, if this is a visible, external, publicly available profile for you, and you don't have a photo on there, it's like, well, why not? And then anything inconsistent, any errors on there as well is really important. People making mistakes on the profile, as we said about the CV beforehand. You know, if you have something that's inconsistent, dates wrong, whatever, it shows that you're not putting attention to detail into the LinkedIn profile. That's your public profile, so businesses get turned off by that.
Great answers.
Thanks.
I feel slightly awkward bringing this one up with you.
Oh dear.
And obviously people might feel awkward about bringing it up with their managers.
Okay.
How to negotiate your salary in finance?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't feel like that. You know, I think if you go at it in the right way, if you approach your boss in the right way, well, why should it be an uncomfortable conversation? You might not get the result you want, but that's the whole point in it being a negotiation. I think you need to be prepared. You've got to go to that conversation being prepared. And so what do I mean by that? Do your research. Have a look around at market rates. See what other businesses are paying. Be clear and present that information. If you happen to have detail of what's going on internally, you know, great. That's helpful as well. That can be awkward. Betty's on $5,000 more than me, and I've been here for 6 years longer. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have, and you want to take the emotion out of it as well. It's quite a logical conversation to have. It doesn't need to be about how I feel. This is about value, right? I've been here for this long. I deliver this work. This is what I think is market rate. The value bit, which I just mentioned then, is really important. So why you are worth that extra cash, and how that relates to the potential roles that you're talking about externally. So X company pays this for this type of experience. You know that I've delivered on that here, so therefore I think that I'm worth that. So I think that's important. Yeah, as I say, if you take emotion out of that, it's not a them versus you conversation. It's a, can I showcase my value to this person? Be prepared for them to say no. Because businesses don't like to add costs unnecessarily. If you're doing a great job on X salary, are you going to do a better job on X plus 3, 4, 5, 10? Businesses don't want to lose their best talent though, right? And if there is a potential of you going and you can showcase that other businesses are paying the salary that you're ideally after, then there is a risk factor that they have to weigh up there and be comfortable walking away. But again, we talked a bit earlier about the most important things for you. If money is the most important thing for you, absolutely walk away. If they won't negotiate on salary, walk away. But often it's not. It's one of a number of things that contribute to whether or not you're actually going to stay and be part of a business. You weigh that up.
Yeah, we've got time for a couple more. What I'd like to know is, what are the pros and cons of working in different finance sectors?
So I'll come at it from two angles. One is if you only ever work in one. So we spoke, I think it was on this one earlier, about the value of businesses being open-minded about what sector they recruit from. So if you're a manufacturing business, should you recruit from only manufacturing, or should you be considering other industries? And my advice is they should, because it increases the talent pool. But I think where we are at the moment is, if you're a candidate, you're looking for work, if you've only ever been in manufacturing, there's two ways of looking at this. One is you are more likely to be towards the top of the pile because of that bias. There are too many clients still that have a bias in terms of, you're in manufacturing, I like people from manufacturing, so you're going to be nearer the top of the pile. Okay, so if you've only ever been in manufacturing, you're likely to be close to the top of the pile for that client. Second thing is that because you have some knowledge of their the acronyms that they speak, the understanding of their sector, you probably will be able to talk a better game in an interview. That means that you are likely to demand more in terms of salary as well. So if you've been in one sector and you continue to progress through that sector, you're likely to end up with a better chance of earning potential within that sector. Right. Okay, so hopefully that all makes sense. But I just say, working in one sector and one sector only can increase your ability to earn more money, but your ability to adapt, your ability to learn and showcase that adaptability can be limited, because you haven't necessarily worked in an environment where it's very different. You know, so energy sector versus automotive manufacturing, the skills and the expectations of what happens in those businesses, the complexities in those organizations is very, very different. So to be a finance leader in one it's brilliant breadth to have, to be able to say I know both of those and actually can turn my hand to bringing something from one sector to another. So I don't know if that's actually really answered the question, but I think there are huge benefits in staying in one sector. I think there are also limitations, though, because if you have only worked in manufacturing for 20 years, the likelihood of you getting into education or energy is less than it would be if you'd done 4 or 5 different sectors in that same time.
And we'll end with this one then. What are the benefits of professional certifications in finance?
I think that this could have been a great answer for client biases from before, because a lot of businesses specify that they need to be qualified, they need to hire qualified, and they don't specify why. They don't actually say why. I think when they look into the detail, it's possibly to do with the fact that someone in the team is possibly capable, but they don't have the qualification. So they need to justify why they're bringing somebody in externally. I think it's just a tick box exercise that minimizes the chance of you getting turned down at interviews, at CV application stage, versus it being an essential. Because there are some clients that I work with that are so open-minded. They want the best person. They don't care about qualifications. If you've got to FC or head of commercial finance, head of finance level, and you haven't got a qualification, you think the qualification is going to define you and make you a better accountant? Absolutely not. But I think there is a comfort in knowing you've done the professional qualifications, you've got a level of baseline knowledge. But I mean, I just think if I'm advising someone at early stage of their career what to do, just get it done. It doesn't take that long, 3-4 years. I mean, it depends if you're doing AAT or you're doing a degree and then going into something like SEMA or ACCA or ACA. It's 3 or 4 years of hard graft working alongside your job, but just get it done, because it minimises the questions and the challenges you might face further down the line where a client says, well, it has to be qualified. Well, you won't be invited in because you just didn't get it done. So.
Yeah. Mate, that was so helpful. And as somebody who has put up their looking for work status public to everyone on LinkedIn, I can certainly appreciate
on purpose
by accident.
Oh no!
But that was a few years ago, and I've learned a lot since then. And I've just learned a lot just then as well. So thanks for your wisdom, and we hope you enjoyed that. We hope that was really helpful. And if you are a client here and you've stumbled across this, then we also have a client-based video on all things client. So do go check that out as well. And we will see you very soon.
Thanks ever so much for tuning in and watching this video. Really, really do appreciate it. Please feel free to jump onto the website, www.AtkinsClarke.com, for any information about the organisation and about what we're all about. As I said in the podcast, we are a purpose-led, technology-enhanced, people-focused organisation, really trying to change the way the recruitment world works. So please do get in touch. If you need to drop me an email, info@AtkinsClarke.com. But big thanks to Ben, my podcast legend over here. Feel free to drop some comments in below, any thoughts that you've got. But hopefully we'll see you sometime soon.